Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tifosi Nation. This is the driver's rating video for the Australian Grand Prix. We've just done a race reaction where we spoke about a lot more than just the race, so go and check that out on the channel. Bit of a longer video. This is going to be a shorter one, though, whilst we knit through the drivers and give our ratings, mate. So if you're ready, Oscar, we'll jump right in. We will start on Max Verstappen. Well, maybe we should start with Logan Sargent. Maybe not. I don't know. Obviously, Logan
I don't
Sargent.
even know how grade Logan Sargent.
Yeah, maybe well, C's just average, isn't it? So maybe
Logan
C,
Sargent would have his highest rating of the season in the race that didn't race.
That's true.
Bit of Sargent start slander.
Yeah. No, let's start with Max Verstappen, mate. So obviously he finished 19th. Lap 4, he retired. Obviously, we know anyone who watched the Grand Prix or the highlights or anything like that, or anyone who watched our last video will know a rear brake issue, the rear right, I think. I've given Verstappen an A. I think you have too, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. And is that solely just off qualifying?
Yeah,
Qualifying
I mean, a super qualifying lap. And obviously, he obviously has a poor start to the race through no fault of his own kind of thing. So we can't even really consider the race too much into it. You can only go off qualifying. He maximised the qualifying with a pretty comfortable pole position. He looked good throughout the qualifying as well. Purple sectors all over the place in Q1, 2 and 3. Max has got to be an A.
Yes, mate. Over to Lewis Hamilton. So in 18th, obviously, again, another retirement. For this one, I think we disagreed on our rating. So I went with a D. What did you go for, mate?
I went slightly higher because he wasn't in a great position before he retired, kind of thing. But I went C, kind of thing. I think the car is just, and you'll see it in the Russell racing as well. The car is just absolutely shockingly bad. We're down to 4th or 5th now with Mercedes chat. So I went C, a little bit more generous, but I can see a D in there, to be honest.
Yeah, I just think, to be fair, it's the same with all season. Obviously, I know we're only a few races in, but I just think Russell looks more comfortable in the car. He wasn't in a great position before the retirement, but yeah, DC, mate, very similar. So we'll move on now to that man, George Russell. Again, another DNF. I mean, I've given George Russell a D for this one. I think this is one we also disagreed on, I believe.
Only slightly. Pretty similar again, really.
I think I would have given Russell higher if it was maybe, I mean, we've already spoken about the Alonso-Russell incident. I just think if it was solely just Alonso that caused the accident, I think I'd probably be a bit more fair on Russell, but he made a mistake. He lost the car. Simple as that. So that's why I've dropped him down to a D.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, I would have gone Russell higher than Hamilton as well, but I've knocked at least one grade back for what was his mistake. Even if it wasn't totally his fault, it was still his mistake. He didn't need to lose the car that badly. It's got to be a C for me, or D. I can probably agree with you on the. If we're going to go D on Hamilton, I can agree with a D on Russell as well. To be fair.
All right, mate. Talk to me on 16th place, Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, he out-qualifies Pierre Gasly again in quality. I'm not too sure what happened actually in terms of how Gasly ended up so far ahead of Ocon early in the race. I mean, whether Gasly got off better at the line, because I wasn't really looking, obviously, Ferrari. I was looking more at Carlos Sainz being on Max's gearbox early doors, but I can only assume Gasly got the jump early doors on Ocon off the start line and things like that. But yeah, to get into Q2 feels like an achievement, and that's what he managed. So nothing to write home about in the race. Gasly finished ahead in the race. A C, it feels like to me.
Yeah, I agree with the C. I was tempted to give Ocon maybe a very push a B or a C plus, because obviously he had the problem with the tear off strip. I think it got stuck in his wheel.
Did he as well? As well as Checo?
Yes. Yeah, Ocon as well.
I actually didn't know that. I didn't see it. I mean, Alpine, I don't really even pay attention to Alpine.
No,
fair enough. I did think there must have been something for it to end up swapping over like that so early in the race.
But C, I think is fair, mate. Obviously he was. I mean, at the end of the day, even with the strip off issue, I think he was the last one to cross the line, obviously with the other DNF. So over to number 15, mate. Joe, what are your thoughts on this one? I think I can't remember if we've got the same on this one. I've gone for a C. Obviously, stake F1 team, the pit stops. I mean, crazy what's going on there. I think it was a design issue. I think it's mad watching them at the pit stop, kind of getting the spares out, mate. Getting the spares.
It's the car, mate. The big green machine coming at them. The mechanics are like, we need to get out of the way. It's like the Incredible Hulk's coming at them. I don't know what it is. There's something about that new car. It's just made Zauber go absolute, and name change as well. It's just made them go just a bit banterish, really.
And he started from the pit as well, remember?
And that's a setup problem as well with the car that they're not getting right.
Yeah, and the new spec obviously got him 15. I think C is just like when I think of a C, I'm thinking just an average drive, and I think that is what it was for me. But are you agreeing with that?
Yeah, I think so. He wasn't as good as Bottas, and obviously we'll come on to him in a second. But he was. He didn't drastically do anything wrong, so C seems fair. Yeah,
I mean, let's go to Bottas, mate. Talk to me on Bottas.
Well, in his home Grand Prix, he gets a B for me. I think he did a solid job. Even though he finished low down, he's done in by a pit stop. Joe had a bad pit stop. Bottas had a terrible pit stop kind of thing. And without that, he's on for a 9th or 10th, maybe even higher than that. So it's hard. You could even argue higher with Bottas, but I think B overall, in terms of his quality pace wasn't anything to write home about as such. So I'd go B on Bottas.
Yeah, it's hard to rate the stake drivers just because of the issues with the pit stops
all season, to be honest.
And I think we saw a 3.5 second pit stop for stake this weekend, and I thought that's quite good for them. To be honest,
that's rapid, mate. That is absolutely rapid.
Yeah. But I'm in agreement, a B there, mate. And if I could, I'd give him an A just for the Uber advert, which we just spoke about. But all right, mate. Over to 30, the other Alpine, so Pierre Gasly. I've gone for a C. I think he was doing well. He made a mistake coming out of the pits. Obviously, and I think he did it in practice as well. He did the same thing, and he was like reprimanded for that, and then he did it again, and obviously he's been given a 5-second penalty. But I've given him a C for his weekend. So
yeah, I'm the same. I think his qualifying was, again, Ocon's been the better of the two this season. I think in the race was probably the only time this season where Gasly has been able to beat Ocon, really. I think Ocon has had the edge this season. Again, it's not saying much because of how bad Alpine are, but it was better in the race. I think the qualifying was not great, to be fair, off Gasly. He's not been able to get that one lap together, but he was okay in the race. I'll go C.
Okay, mate. Over to you for 12th place, Daniel Ricciardo. What do you think?
Home race, and he's not had a good record even in Red Bull in Australia at all. It's a D, I'm afraid. And it's looking troublesome for Daniel Rick. We'll probably do a separate video on it. And it's a very Nick De Vries-esque performance, if we're being honest, yesterday. Way off Yuki on qualifying pace. I can't get used to seeing Daniel Ricciardo so anonymous in the race. He's always, even when he wasn't at it, he's always pulling off manoeuvres, last of the late breakers. He's just doing nothing in the races as well. He's driving within himself in the races. It's just, there's nothing great from it. Hurts to say this because I think we're both Daniel Ricciardo fans. It's hard to watch, but it's a D at this moment in time. I just can hope he can just somehow find that form from last season.
Yeah.
But it's not quite as grim as what it was at McLaren at this moment in time, but it's not getting far off at this moment in time. Yeah,
obviously, I think he had a really quick quali lap, and then it was.
Yeah, but the thing is,
it got deleted, didn't it, for track limits?
And he gained a lot from that because he was able to take that particular part of the track full speed kind of thing. And
I think he said it was his best lap of the season, and obviously it was deleted. So, and then he went out in Q1, So yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, mate, for Danny Rick. All right, then over to 11th place, just missing out on the points. Alex Albon, a bit of controversy this weekend with Williams and obviously Albon and Logan Sargent. Albon, obviously the only Williams on the grid, finished 11th. didn't get any points, so I think they may as well have started Logan Sargent. But I've gone for a C with Albon, mate. I think.
Yeah.
He's
got to lose a mark because he's took his teammate out of the race.
Yes,
not. He has though. That's the facts.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think again, like I said, they may as well have gone with Sargent. It was a risk, obviously, going with Albon because I suppose, well, I don't know what Sargent's like as a person. I would imagine it damages the relationship between Sargent and Vowles a little bit. And it didn't pay off, but you can see, I mean, 11th, and I don't know what the gap was, mate, to 10th, but
wasn't a million miles off, but it never looked likely at the same time either. I think K-Mag had Alex covered, really. I think he overtook Alex quite early on-ish, like sort of lap 20-ish, and never really under threat, really, K-Mag.
So we're in agreement with a C for Albon.
It maybe would have been a B without that, but it happens. He did take the car, he did total the car, and that's the reality. You can't be doing that at Williams.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Let's move on then to 10th. We have the next two are both Haas drivers. We're going to start with Kevin Magnussen. For K-Mag, I've gone with an A. And I think, again, a good performance from the Haas, double points. Obviously lets his teammate through towards the end of the race and also keeps Albon behind him, as we just said. So an A for me, a great drive.
I think it was K-Mag's best drive since his second debut at Bahrain, in 2022 when he jumped back into the Haas. I think he got 5th that day. He was absolutely superb, K-Mag. And he's had a really, it looks like the K-Mag we know, kind of thing. I said it about Daniel Rick. He's not, this is the K-Mag we know. He's feisty. He's getting, he's scrambling in 10-point positions. He's doing the job. Like last season, he was a bit of a shadow of himself. He's not as good as the Hulk, but he did the job he needs to do. It's an A, definitely.
Yeah, and over to his teammate, mate. Teammate. I've also given Nico Hulkenberg an A, mate. Again, a great drive. The duo together, both getting points. Obviously, he was let through by Magnussen, but yeah, A for me.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, Hulk underperformed a bit in quali. In terms of he went out in Q1, which is quite rare for Nico Hulkenberg that's happened to. That's the only thing you maybe mark against him, but he recovered in the race. We know what we're going to get with Hulk at this moment in time. And we said it on another video, he's probably been the second or third best driver on the whole grid this season. He's been absolutely outstanding, and it's an A. Yeah,
mate, over to 8th place, Yuki Tsunoda. I've gone for an A. What about you?
This is Yuki Tsunoda in a nutshell. He can go from a D or an E to an A just like that. And we're going to see a lot of A's from Yuki Tsunoda this season. He's absolutely cooking Daniel Ricciardo at this moment in time, and he's pulled it together in a race. He's not made any stupid mistakes. He's actually had probably his quietest race in ages and his best result, and that is when Yuki's at his best, when he's not getting into crazy situations. And he was the best of the rest this weekend, and it's an A. And on his own, with that race on its own, he's put Racing Bull 6th in the constructors. So it was such a top drive and a huge one from Yuki yet again. We see these Yuki masterclasses on the regular these days.
I think it was important as well from after what happened after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with obviously was it Saudi or Bahrain? Sorry,
it was I think it's Bahrain actually, but
Bahrain.
Saudi he made big mistakes in Saudi.
Yeah,
to be fair, so that didn't help matters either.
Yep. So an A for Yuki. Over to 7th place, we have Lance Stroll, mate. So I've gone for a B for Lance Stroll. I think he's still, he's still behind Alonso. There's still quite a gap to Alonso. In the same way Perez operates for Red Bull, if you know what I mean. Healthy points score though. Aston Martin will be happy with that. Obviously, 7th place. But yeah, a B for me, mate.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, what I will say is Stroll out-qualified Alonso, which is quite a rare occurrence, to be fair. So that's definitely has to be a positive for Stroll, but still a long way off in the race if we're being realistic. And just to throw this out there, it's a good job as well because George Russell, that accident, the only reason that wasn't major, let's not forget, is because Lance Stroll was so far behind. If had Stroll been only 2 or 3 seconds behind, that could have been hectic. I'd just throw it in there, just a little bit of FIA slander there. But the FIA got away with one there. But Stroll, good weekend, B. If he does that every weekend, there's no slander for Lance Stroll at all from anyone. They accept he's not as good as Alonso, but he's getting just behind Alonso and getting decent little results. And if he can do that, but he won't. This is the thing with Lance Stroll. He'll go from a B this weekend to the worst driver on the grid in Japan or the worst driver on the grid in China. It's just the reality of Lance Stroll, unfortunately.
Well, let's talk about his teammate, sixth place, Fernando Alonso. So I think we disagreed on this slightly.
Yeah.
Go on, tell me what you've got for him.
Well, I've gone off the basis of giving Alonso the benefit of the doubt with that crash with, well, not crash, sorry, George Russell's incident. And with that, you've got to consider he was ahead of Russell and Hamilton. He had the race pace. He did a decent job defending before that off Russell in terms of having DRS. I think he's a B+. I think he did get the most out of the car. But yeah, I think it was just another. I think he was better than Stroll, and we gave Stroll a B. So I think he was slightly better than Stroll overall. I'll go a B+. But I can see why you've gone with what you've gone for, though.
For Alonso, I've gone for a C. I've gone for a C.
I can see why, though. I can see why.
Yeah, I'm just dropping. Yeah, I'm literally just marking him down for that, mate. I think. Again, maybe a little bit harsh because I have just said that the incident wasn't all Fernando's fault, but he definitely played a part, even if it was a small one. He was.
We agree on the B. Meet down the middle.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's meet down the middle. Meet down the middle on that one. Okay.
Meet down the middle. Fifth place, mate. Fifth place, Sergio Perez. Now, I think we're both in agreement for this one. I've gone with a D. I think you have too.
He's lucky to get D for me, but it is a D.
Yeah, obviously he did appear to have a bit of pace, I think. He breezed past Fernando Alonso and Russell. But he was, I mean, he couldn't get close to the McLarens. I think Horner, part of me wants to give it a C or a D+, but because Horner did say that Perez actually had damage as well. I don't know how much of that's true or how much damage there actually was, but Horner did say there was damage. But I think overall, mate, a D. Every race we just see the difference in quality between him and Max, and that's no criticism of Checo because we know how superior Max is. But a D for me, mate. Are you in agreement?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. What I'll just throw out there is that I did see about the damage. They thought it was about 2 attempts he lost. Even with that, he's still finishing 5 or 10 seconds behind Oscar. So it's still
right.
If we're taking that and times it by 58. He's still a long way behind Oscar with that. And it's if it was as bad as what they're saying. I think whenever team principals say that, they tend to exaggerate it as much as they possibly can. You know what I mean? They never downplay stuff like that. So, yeah, definitely a poor one for Checo. And the fact that Max went out the race, you're thinking, what a great little chance it is for Checo to show what he can do. And he's nowhere to be seen in quali. When I say nowhere to be seen in quali, I think he qualified 3rd or 4th or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Obviously got the grid penalty, but even with the 3rd or 4th, he was still a long way off Max. He was still like sort of 3 or 4 attempts on quali pace alone. So, yeah, it's a D.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Over to Oscar Piastri in 4th place. I've gone for a D. A B for Oscar Piastri. He was pitted first to cover off a threat from George Russell, and then obviously then he undercut Lando in the process. But I think Lando had more pace, and he obviously surrendered that spot back. I think overall it was a good race from Oscar. Obviously 4th place ain't bad at all. It helps him in the constructors as well, and surrendering your 3rd place podium on your home race, I mean, you deserve a point for that. Fair play to him. No complaints from him either, so that was nice to see. But yeah, a B for me, mate, on Oscar.
I went slightly higher, but again, one of them I'm happy to meet on the B, to be honest. I went slightly higher because I think he's getting closer and closer to Lando. Maybe not so much
true
on the race this weekend, but certainly in qualifying. He did another good qualifying performance. Yeah, I think B's fair. I think it was a good race from Oscar. He's only further enhancing his reputation against one of the best drivers in the grid. But yeah, good performance. I think Lando, even had Oscar not cooperated, still would have finished ahead of him. He still would have found a way of getting past Oscar. So it's a B for me overall.
Okay, over to his teammate then, mate, in the podium places, Lando Norris, 3rd place. He now tops the table for most top 3 finishes without a win. Oh, it's pain. It's pain. It's pain. Come on, Lando. But when Verstappen went out, mate, there was just that thought like, oh, hello there. Could we see it today? Obviously, Ferrari were too quick, but I think he did well. Obviously, he was put on the back foot a little bit when Oscar pitted first. As I said, obviously, Oscar conceded that. 14th podium for Lando. I think he recovered well as the race went on. And to be fair, mate, he was catching Leclerc slightly at the end. And, if there were a few more laps there, I think it might have been not too close, but a little bit close. I think he would have been given Leclerc something to worry about. But yeah, for me, mate, it's an A for Lando. I think it was a great performance. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh again on Oscar for giving them, for giving Oscar a B and Lando an A. Maybe they were quite on par. But yeah, an A for me, for my golden boy.
Yeah, it's an A. It's definitely an A for Lando. And he's getting closer to the win. There's no question about it. This weekend was another one where it could have happened. Safety car, McLaren being a bit sharper on the strategy, maybe. I did think Ferrari not only won this race, but they also won it, in the in terms of on the strategy as well, in terms of
yes.
If McLaren being bold, maybe I think still probably need a little bit of luck, but it wasn't totally impossible for McLaren to maybe get a second or first this weekend. Lando will win a race this season. I'm going to use the words will. He will win a race this season. It's an A because he puts in performances like that, in terms of where he's right on the, he's putting the pressure. He's still put pressure on Carlos and Charles. There's no question about it. Carlos couldn't just manage the pace. He had to go flat out. Charles had to go flat out. You don't see that often. You don't see that often from Max. So it's definitely to Lando's credit that he was able to put a bit of pressure on the Ferrari drivers. A.
I mean, think back to Russia. Was it Russia 2020? Lando
21 it was.
Can you imagine if you said then, in 2024, Lando still wouldn't have won a race? I wouldn't have believed that, mate. I would have thought he would have won one by now. But yeah, anyway, moving on to the two drivers that we haven't mentioned yet. They are both Ferrari, as you'll be happy to know.
They had an awful weekend, them two.
Second place, I think we disagreed on this a little bit. Maybe, again, I'm just being a little bit harsh. But yeah, talk to me on Leclerc first, and then I'll tell you where I'm at. But yeah, Leclerc.
I've gone A, to be fair. I think his qualifying was probably one of his worst qualifyings for quite a long time, to be honest. And he still qualified fifth, I think, or fourth with Checo's penalty. So it shows how good his qualifying's been. That's made quite a few headlines, that performance. But again, I think his race was solid. I think overall, if you look at the actual data, and we'll obviously be doing the race pace data, they were pretty much equal, Carlos and Charles, over the whole race. In the end, I think it was only 2.53 seconds-ish. I think in the first stint, no question about it, Carlos was a lot faster, but Charles definitely grew into the race. I think he definitely, even without the good strategy from Ferrari, still would have finished ahead of Lando. I actually think he also would have finished ahead of Max, even without the DNF. I think he had the pace, along with Carlos, to still take the 1-2 for me. Ferrari did as well, but I think it was a really good performance from Charles. The fact that he recovered quite well. I think sometimes in the past with Charles, I think if he has a bad quali, he probably carries into the race as well, but it didn't for Charles this one. So A for me.
Yeah, to be fair, mate, I'm happy to give you that. I've gone for a B just solely on the fact that he had a bad qualifying. He did have a poor qualifying in comparison to, Sainz or his usual self. And I think he wasn't able to mount really a challenge on Sainz. And to be fair, later on, obviously, he was told not to anyway. But he did well to navigate kind of the two McLarens. Obviously, he kept ahead of them both. Again, if there were 5 more laps in that race, I'm not sure. I think Lando might have caught him, but yeah, we'll.
I think you've been generous there, mate. I think you've been generous.
But no, I'm happy to go with your A, mate. And then that takes us on to first place, Carlos Sainz. I think we've both given him an A+. I just think it was kind of faultless, really, from Carlos. The only thing you could probably say was you didn't get pole, on the Saturday, but it's Max Verstappen at the end of the day. So A+ for me. What about you?
Yeah, A+. I mean, as much as the qualifying, I think Red Bull genuinely were as quick as Ferrari in qualifying. I think obviously still a special lap from Max, but if anyone was going to take pole, it was Carlos. Outside of a really, really good Max Verstappen performance. And again, he does. This is what Carlos does. In terms of when the win's on the table, he does take it with 2 hands. It's Singapore. Silverstone is a bit more fortunate, but again, Singapore and this one, he did what he needed to do. Built a Verstappen-like gap early doors. Didn't put him at risk of any strategy changes or anything like that from McLaren or Red Bull. He just did the job he needs to do. And yeah, and that move, by the way, I know Max had a problem with his car. That move in that part of the track around the outside, that is a special overtake. And I've said it before about Carlos getting a bit more aggressive in his overtakes and a bit more aggressive in his racecraft in general. I don't think Carlos tries that move this time last year. I think he backs off a little bit and tries to get Max somewhere else on the track. And I just think I love this side of Carlos. He's driving absolutely fantastically well, and he's driving that well. People think Leclerc's not having a great season. Leclerc's having a really, really strong season as well. But Carlos is having a special one. He's arguably being, maybe not quite as good as Max, but he's certainly second best driver on the grid so far on performances this season.
Yeah, mate, fair enough.
My man, smooth operator, Spanish national anthem, playing at 6 o'clock every morning. Was not on my bingo card. Carlos Sainz, A+.
Nice one, mate. And we'll do driver of the day. I'll just go with Sainz, mate. I think he deserves it. To be fair, driver of the day.
I think Logan Sargent. He's
yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Let's.
It's Carlos. It's Carlos. But no, it's yeah.
Or Gunter on the microphone, mate. Interviewing afterwards.
Someone obviously, the Yuki deserves a mention in terms of he just came out. I don't think anyone had Yuki come in 7th, so I think he deserves a bit of a mention. But yeah, Perez, disaster class. I don't think anyone else had a massive disaster class, but Checo certainly did.
Yeah, I hear you, mate. All right then. Well, like we said, like we always say, drop a like on the video, please, if you don't mind. Much appreciated. Hit the subscribe button as well. Look forward to the next Grand Prix to do this all over again. Hopefully it's a Lando win. I do doubt it. I think we'll actually be talking about a Verstappen 40-second gap to Charles Leclerc, probably.
Not happening, mate. They're on the downward spiral, mate. They're on a downward spiral.
Can you imagine, mate, if they have more reliability issues?
I'm only joking, but
I mean, the drive to survive for this season's already going to be spicy, but a bit more, mate. A bit more. They need to cut.
If they have a Mercedes like drop off, to be fair,
if they did, if Red Bull, here's a question for you, just to throw in there at the end of the video. If Red Bull have a disaster, I don't really know what could go that wrong, but reliability issues.
They are doing the Mercedes side pod thing in Japan. That famously good concept for Mercedes. It won't backfire on them. But if it did,
can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine? Maybe Verstappen walks out mid-season, mate.
Goes to Williams, replaces Logan Sargent when Logan Sargent headbutts James Fowles and gets a thingy dismissal. Max will be there. He'll be ready. He'll be there to partner with Albon again.
I think if Perez totaled his car, mate, they'd actually give they'd let Logan drive it. I think, to be fair, over Perez.
To be fair. At times, they can't go much worse, to be fair, with how Checo did today.
Yeah, I think, anyway, mate. All right, that's it. That's the end of the video. We sidetracked.
We've done our slander. Locke's got his slander in. I've got my slander in. We're all happy.
I reckon we'll have to just do a slander video one day. And just
I was going to do a video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We go through the slander names and the best ones of each driver. There is some special ones.
I was going to say the Hamilton one, but we'll wait.
There's 20 different Hamilton ones. To be fair.
As we said, if you can hit the like button, hit subscribe, go check out our race reaction video that came out earlier. So go check that out. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you very soon. And yeah, thanks all. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Ferrari 1-2. Get in there.